I want to move to an issue. Last night, Tony Jones ended his reign of 12 years Q&A host. I must confess, I am not paid enough, could never pay me enough to watch Q&A anymore. I used to have to watch it in politics. There's nothing you can get me to do to turn on the channel. But I read with interest a lot of the media about it today, and of course there was the swan song too of Malcolm Turnbull, and of course he wouldn't miss it because climate change, bushfires, drought, all of those issues are there as a lovely witch's brew for him to jump into. You take one for the team, I know, very often and watch the ABC. What did you make of it?
Well, I even took one for the team a couple of times and appeared on Q&A, Peter. And in fact, I was very disappointed because my finest moment on Q&A didn't make the greatest hits. And that was when, sitting next to Lucy Turnbull, I said that, and this was a time you will remember well, it was a few weeks before the spill in 2015. It was about August 2015, and Tony Jones said, well, do we all think Malcolm Turnbull would make a great leader? And he turned to me and he said, Rowan, what do you think? And I said, Tony, I think Malcolm Turnbull would make a great leader. And Lucy Turnbull beamed with pride, and I said, of the Labour Party, which is where he belongs. And her face dropped, and Tony Jones quickly changed the subject and moved on. Didn't make the greatest hits. I'm very, very disappointed. There you go. But on a serious note, Q&A was a terrific program when it began. It had a great idea, which was to involve the audience, to get... And it was a first for television in many ways, to have this direct conversation between the audience and various politicians, celebrities, etc. But increasingly, unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just shifted further and further to the left, and it became so politically biased and really lost track of doing what its mission was, which was to talk to real Australia, and instead it concentrated on talking to fringe Australia and identity politics and radical leftists of this, that and the other hue, and that's where it ended up. And it became virtually unwatchable because of that. But Malcolm Turnbull was just ludicrous, as he always is on that show, pandering to the audience. Now he's reached this delusional state, Malcolm Turnbull, where he not only believes, as he told Christopher Pyne a couple of weeks ago, that he would have won the 2009 election, which, and he claimed everybody believed that as well. Well, nobody, not a single soul other than Malcolm Turnbull and Christopher Pyne, believed that to be the case. He's now convinced himself that his key policy, the National Energy Guarantee, was this great, wonderful thing that was going to solve climate change and do all sorts of things and was hugely popular. And there was this tiny group of insurgents within the Liberal Party who blew up his government. He seems to have forgotten that he actually resigned, and the Labor Party didn't support his NEG, and the NEG was full of holes and would not have done much apart from ramp up electricity prices. But he's convinced himself. He's done the whole Rudd-like martyr trip. But Turnbull's becoming just increasingly comical, but also sad as a figure, because...
Well, he's looking for his next return to public life. I mean, he will be one of the leaders of the Republican push. He will reluctantly, he will say, put his hand up, I have absolutely no doubt, to be the president.
Oh, yes.
If we go down the path of a popularly elected president, he will have more power than any prime minister who, as we know, is not popularly elected. Just so I can't be accused of misquoting my former boss in any way, let's have a listen to what he said.
When Australians' lives are at risk, when they are being threatened, when their families and their homes and their crops and their properties and everything they hold dear is being put at threat, that's a national security issue. The federal government's job is to lead, and this is an issue that needs leadership. We cannot kid ourselves that we are not going to face more and hotter fires. That is the consequence of global warming.
Well, that's about as thinly veiled swipe at the Prime Minister Scott Morrison as you can find, pushing this issue of leadership. He talks about bushfires. I've never seen him pick up a hose or put on a uniform, but, you know, things
unlike
could
a certain former Prime Minister that we can think of.
Yeah, well, things could change. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that.